Hi, everyone. My name is Kristina Beek, and I'm an associate editor with Dark Reading. I'm here for another episode of Heard It from a CISO, and today I'm joined by Myke Lyons, CISO at Cribl. Thanks so much for being here, Myke.
Nice to meet you, Kristina. I'm glad we're going to have this conversation today.
Awesome. So let's just start from the beginning. Why don't you tell us about your current role as CISO and what Cribl does?
Fantastic. So, I'm the CISO here at Cribl. Cribl, we are the IT and security, data pipeline and telemetry solution. We are really, what's important to IT and security folks is trying to learn and manage and deal with the volume of data that is coming out of their systems and their software and their SaaS technologies, and trying to help ensure that the right data goes to the right place as quickly as possible to ensure that you're applying the right dollar amounts to the right places, but also getting insight and context around the various threats and disruptions that we see across various businesses, both in IT and security.
Awesome. Yeah. So CISO is kind of sort of like viewed as like a top cybersecurity leadership position. And for some people, it takes, it's a long road to get there. What does your education and just career background look like, and how did you first get involved in cybersecurity? And I know this is a bit unique for you since you have a background of being a chef.
I do. I thought it was so regular. Everybody went to culinary school and they end up being a CISO. I thought that was the path we all took. I guess, it is a bit unique. I wanted to be a chef, and then I wanted to be a food writer, and then I wanted to be a food critic. So I went to culinary school. I was fully in culinary world. I've still kind of dabble a little bit, although less so in the past maybe 10 years. CISOs tend to have less free time. But I went and got a summer job moving printers for a family company, or a friend of family company, and I was pretty good at picking things up and putting them down. And the woman who I was partnered with was the tech side, and she was smaller than most of these printers that we were moving around at that time. So I was her muscle, and she was the brains of the operation, and probably still is the brains of the operation, frankly. She taught me how to do things like copy and paste. My wife was actually way more savvy, or is way more savvy. No, she was way more savvy with technology than I am now. And so I kind of learned how to use a computer by learning how to break them in many ways. So I, would get computers sort of out of the bin, or they were getting deprecated, and I would start to build little labs and things like this to really get under the hood, learn about IP, and learn about OSI models, application deployment, how automation and workflows worked, how data was moving and was important to us. And so, interestingly enough, my first security job was actually in logging and in telemetry. And so that was back a long time ago, like 2003. And now I'm sort of full story back in a full-time security role, but at a company that does telemetry and deals with logs and traces and metrics and things like that.
Yeah, awesome. Would you say, so you talk about how you were fully in the chef culinary world before transitioning into cyber. Once you were in cyber, would you say that becoming a CISO was like a goal of yours, or did it sort of just happen along the way?
I didn't even know that there were any CISOs in 2003, 2004. Yeah. Maybe there was, but it would have been like the earliest. So it was very an IT oriented job. So CIO was sort of the pinnacle of the career for a technologist. I really wanted to be like an architect. I always wanted to be that super technical person and diving in. And then I kind of hit a point at which I started doing some people management for a few years, and I realized that there was a broader opportunity within just technology as a market and as a group of people, to help others sort of uplift themselves from whatever they were thinking they were doing, a conventional role that they were maybe going after, like, doctor, lawyer, plumber, electrician, those types of things. And there was this other really budding space, which was like technology was changing so quickly, and there was just a gap. And I think the background of the individual, or their experience, or what they did, was less critical. And what was really important was their sort of eagerness to learn and to take those sort of learnings that they had about how to learn and run with them. And so as the CISO, I started to realize that there was a way to tap into others and sort of curate that or grow that or fertilize that or whatever analogy you'd like to use to just get them excited about these things. Or if they were excited about learning, maybe this was an area that was super interesting to them. And so even to this day, I don't necessarily hire people based on where they were or what education that they have. Not that I don't think those things are important, but I think it's the personalities and that eagerness that is the most critical for anyone trying to get into cyber.
Awesome. So in terms of, you brought up hiring people, how would you say is the best way for someone to enter this field? Whether it be like what kind of roles to apply to or what kind of background to have, whether it be like a formal cyber related, 4-year degree or maybe different certificates that they could get, like what would you advise?
I don't know that there's any school out there that has functional practitioners that are teaching all of the subjects. So I would anticipate that take the learnings that you've had from university, whether it's a cyber learning or just some other learning, could even be a chef's learning or culinary or knife skills or something like that. What I would really start to think about is there a better way to do what you're seeing? Like if you're a person who's getting phishing messages, because you probably are, everybody gets them, whether they're LinkedIn or WhatsApp or Instagram phishing messages, like they're coming. I get text messages from, rando numbers on a regular basis. Are you curious about that? Like, is that something that would be interesting to you to find out how those things happen, where they come from? Like, what's the etymology of that particular text message that you've received? And then the next thing is we're coming up against arguably the most interesting time in technology, and that is this adoption of AI capabilities, which who knows what the limits are there. I don't, and I don't know that anybody does. I think the upside is just so amazing. So if you're coming out of school, I've met with some more parents of these graduates rather than the graduates themselves that are like, well, they graduated and their job that they were going to go for is going to be in AI. It's like, no, it's not. It's not. That we're going to hire someone who comes in with these learnings or how to understand how to use these things to automate repeatable tasks or to make things faster or to run investigations differently. So leveraging what is available to you, either free or pay or some sort of hybridized version of that. I think that's the most important thing that I'm looking for a candidate is like their curiosity level. I'd love it to be at like an 11. So hunger and curiosity are the most, probably the highest things that I'm looking for out of anyone that I meet for a role.
Yeah. In terms of the people you work with or manage now, currently, what stands out to you? What qualities do they have? And I know you just said, like, you're looking for curiosity, hunger in terms of people you're hiring. But, in terms of like how people you work with, how they deal with problems that come up or, whatever in that realm, what sticks out to you?
I think the most important thing for me is empathy for the individuals that are involved in the security thing, whatever the thing is. So one would be if you're finding application security defects, that you have empathy for the person who perhaps introduced this defect, that they didn't do it intentionally. And so that's one. The other one is like maybe a salesperson who's not super tech savvy and, and he clicked on a link or she clicked on a link or did something and now it's, it's bad. Having an opportunity to come in and coach them through this scenario, sort of like, reducing some of the, de-escalating or reducing the tension attached to this stuff or the stigma in many ways. I absolutely, all the folks on my team, it might be like that person's sus or that, whatever the case may be, but under the hood, really what they mean is like, hey, there's an opportunity for me to help them get better and also deal with the onslaught, right? I've had executives that have done things were very technically savvy and it's you have a weak moment or you're distracted because you're a busy person. Just coming at it and approaching it with a very thoughtful culture oriented response is very important for me. Probably the top characteristic of my team. I'm super fortunate in that I have people from ages from end to end, backgrounds from end to end that are all part of the team. But one of those core principles that they all follow with is empathy and trying to grow culture. because culture scales, right? Culture is the most important thing in any company, whether you're talking about it from an MBA's perspective of, culture eats strategy for breakfast kind of stuff. Security culture is very easy to lose. Trust is exceptionally easy to lose. It's hard earned. And so earning that trust of people that you are a go-to team that will help you and make you better and safer and make the company thusly better and safer, maybe make their network better and safer. Those are the things that I think are most critical for me and anyone who's part of my team.
Yeah. And on the topic of, culture and the people you're surrounded with in a company, it makes me think of mentorship. And I wanted to ask if there have been any, notable mentors in cybersecurity in your journey, or even in culinary and in this transition, whether it be, personal or career oriented. And what would you advise people to look for in a mentor?
Thanks for that. A good question too. I don't think people think enough about what a mentor is, or they think there's some like series of boxes you tick because you have to have a mentor. First off, there's never one. There's going to be numerous folks, and depends on what their experience are, and depends on how you have chemistry with that individual. I think that's probably the first important thing is it having that chemistry. I've learned from people that were board members, and maybe they didn't know that they were mentoring me, but I called on them constantly. I call on people that are in sales. I have friends in sales that are in sales roles that are seasoned professionals there. I have CISO mentors. And one of the things that I'm looking at is like, what is from their experience can I learn from? Is there an opportunity for them to tell me a story that I can perhaps translate into my own experience so that I can react in ways that are important? I have a CISO mentor of mine. It's very applicable to a CISO type role or a security leader type role. Is he said the last thing that you're going to change when the house is on fire is the security system. And so I think about the fact that like, if I'm going to take a role in a company, is this a company that is flourishing or growing or new things are happening or it's stable, right? Versus the other side, like, hey, we're going to hire a CISO because we had a breach, and oh, by the way, our financials are currently not doing so strong. And so if you want a job where you're going to grow and learn, those are the companies. You want to go to the stable companies or the growing companies versus the other. Those are just like key phrases that I, sort of really take to heart to this day. On the culinary side, I think it was appreciation for people's craft that was most interesting to me. There's a movie about a famous sushi chef in Tokyo. Jiro is his name, and there's a show called Jiro Dreams of Sushi. If you haven't seen that movie, it's a fantastic movie, but it is about how he has spent his entire life, he still works a bit, and he's in his 90s, about making the best sushi ever. And why it's so interesting is because it was the first single food style or single dish style restaurant to ever achieve 3 Michelin stars, which is like the highest ranking for a restaurant. And it was sort of denied initially, like, no way, you can't just have sushi and get 3 stars. All these other restaurants do courses and white tablecloths, and you're in a subway station. And then when they said, challenge us on our opinion, go there. And everyone who went said, oh my gosh, this is like the perfect sushi.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that. One of the last questions I have for you, and I would just love to know your opinion, is what does the future of cybersecurity look like to you?
It's going to have AI sort of buttered all along the top of it, both from a defense and an offense perspective, as and then we're going to have to teach people about adopting the right things or being exceptionally thoughtful. So to the culture or the criteria by which you're going to make a choice as to whether or not this AI is going to be the right thing for a sales leader or an enterprise apps team or an engineering team or a people manager or people like HR folks, like, they're all going to have their needs, and they're all going to start to look to adopt new technology. So I think that's going to be the biggest change in cyber, is going to be that, like, something you did previously is going to now be done faster or different, and the potential is just like, don't think about that tiny little that tiny little problem you have every day. Yeah. But I do have to say that anyone who's looking at adopting new technologies in the cybersecurity world is firstly understand that the attackers have access to just about everything that you have. So they're going to come fast, and they're going to come hard at you, and they can make a lot more mistakes than you have. So you have to focus and ensure that you're getting right every day what they can have the opportunity to get wrong. And then the next thing is, when you're thinking about adopting a technology that has AI in it, make sure the technology has a very solid use where you can measure that particular technology itself. And then as yourself, like, always be learning, always be hungry. Constantly look for adjacencies within industry that is advancing. I think this is one of the first times where cybersecurity is probably caught up, or at least on par with a lot of other types of organizations about adopting new technologies. And it's great to see that. And I think it's, in response to the fact that the bad people are coming at us faster and harder, and they have these capabilities. Previously, if there was some nuanced, like, better engineering thingy, it wouldn't necessarily have a direct impact on security. Now, there is a direct impact for a lot of these newer technologies. So you've got to stay ahead of it and constantly be learning. It is a subject matter where learning is the greatest part of it. Mm-hmm. And I think just make sure that you stay true to to those empathetic parts that you have within your body and your heart. And remember, like, there's a bunch of bad people out there, but there's a bunch of good people on this side too. And create that network and curate that network, and make sure you find your friends.
For sure. I know we talked about a lot, but any last words of advice to whether it be fresh grads or people who are maybe chefs right now looking to pivot into cybersecurity? Any final words for them?
Perfect your craft. Stay with it, put your heart in it. If your heart's not in it, it's not going to be in it because you work harder at it, right? Get a role that you like, work for a place that you believe in, that you think is doing the right thing. Work with people that you like to work with. Don't just work somewhere because they've got a flashy name. And if you're really interested, we're always hiring here at Cribl. I'd love to have the opportunity to meet you or connect you with one of the amazing people that I know in the industry to get you a new role. Because it's a great industry. I look forward to my kids getting out in the workforce at one point, and maybe they'll take cyber in, maybe they'll take culinary. My daughter cooks all the time with me. It's impressive to have a 10-year-old who can make dinner for you. Yeah. Not just mac and cheese out of a box, but real dinner. My son can also cook too, and it's great. So I think, she's got a mind that I can see where her first couple of roles can be, and he has a mind where I can see his roles being in cyber, both of them. So there's a lot of paths. It's a big wide industry. It's not like cyber means I hack code all day or I repair vulnerabilities all day. It could be a million different things. And there's skills I think so many grads are going to come out with that'll be a great fit for the cybersecurity community.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. I greatly enjoyed it, and I know it'll be so helpful for people looking to go into this industry.
Excellent. Thank you, Kristina. This has been a good conversation.